Live.
Awesome.
All right. Welcome back to World's Strongest Opinions, episode 40. We've made that's a huge stepping stone or landmark, I guess. And we get celebrated with Brando and Linda Barratt, who are hosting Colorado's Strongest Man and Woman on August 12th. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome.
So let's just jump right into it. Tell us what's going on, and why this particular show is going to be so special for Colorado.
So I'll kind of kick it off a little bit. Linda is definitely certainly behind the scenes and helping out with all of it. So I don't want to take words from her mouth, but I will get it started and, I'll let her jump in. But basically, we jumped into Strongman in 2020 and it was just me competing, mid COVID. Everything was kind of at a standstill and I was looking for something to do. And, things kind of got started off in 2020. And then, as things progressed, I realized, like after learning the sport a little bit and learning what has been happening in Colorado, that there wasn't much since Team Tom shows were happening. And then everything kind of just died off. And then I think I had spoke to Justin Menning last year about hosting Colorado's Strongest Man and Woman. And I don't think we realized that it would actually come to fruition and all happen. And I think what he had told me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there was only one other Colorado Strongest Man and Woman that has ever happened. Do you guys know?
So that's been a long time ago when Sarah Jamieson was the Strongman Corp state rep.
Gotcha.
And that was held in Colorado Springs.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's been a while. It's been a minute, as we like to say in Colorado.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, so honestly, we started out of our garage 3 years ago and we just had simple strongman Saturdays and everything like that. And, it definitely built up quickly. We built a community and, it was something small, but it grew. And then, after competing, I just realized my love for the sport. And Linda eventually competed. She jumped in and she loved it as well. But both of us, besides that, we always have big goals. We're always pushing hard to, make big things happen. And I think, just taking that opportunity to run a competition as a title show was something that I always kind of wanted to do and just get a hold of quick, so when that time came to jump on that, it was shortly after we were I guess established is the best way to say it. I realized that we are at the capacity and we have built quite the relationship with the local community to put on something. We're not just some random people putting on Colorado's Strongest Man and Woman.
Right.
Actually get out there, compete, learn the sport and things like that. So it was a big undertaking, but I definitely think it was worth it. And I think you could agree. I know it's stressful, but
it was a huge undertaking.
And it's not done yet.
No.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And it was kind of funny. I think I had posted that it was live on Iron Podium several months ago. And then I was realizing shoot, my events are going to actually require me to do some of these things. They're going to require me to pour some stones and build some Atlas stone platforms. And so I started to get to work pretty quickly and, I'm buttoning everything up now. But it's huge, man. And I have a lot of respect for promoters who take on any sort of show, but especially when they're putting everything into it, and I have quickly found that, it costs a lot of money to do this sort of thing the right way. We're not just putting on a show, paying for trophies and shirts and collect the rest of the money. You know what I mean? There's a lot of money to be given, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's very evident. All of our listeners don't know yet or may not be aware yet. That's why we want to have you on here to kind of spread the word. For your first show, I mean, you really are going out. It's going to be live streamed. You've got people like Gabe Pena, who's going to be commentating on the live stream, which is huge in and of itself. You got some guys locally here, coming to support. You got a big crowd or a big group of people coming to help with the show, and some other big names. I'll let you throw them out. But I mean, for your first show, I would say so far it seems like you have definitely put a lot of time, thought, and effort into it, which is exactly what the sport needs.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I definitely have. It's definitely not by myself. Linda's definitely the brains of the operation. She has all the brilliant. Yeah, she doesn't talk much, but she does have the brilliant ideas, and I go out and get them done. But yeah, it's like, if I'm gonna do this the right way, I'm gonna do it the first time, and I'm gonna do it the best way I possibly can. I don't want to start my first show off with a bad reputation, and just kind of, I mean, half-assing things, if you will. Like, I mean,
Sure.
I've seen it done, and I don't appreciate it, because if you want the sport to grow, you definitely have to put in what you're expecting to get out. I truly believe that. And I've had a lot of mentors. I always refer to Tyler Stickle. He's a huge mentor. Um, we lived in Fort Collins when we first met, and we went to one of Tyler's competitions that happened there in Fort Collins, and that was the first time I ever met him. And after realizing how important he was in the sport, I just realized, like, okay, this guy's a guy I need to reach out to for any kind of advice. And
Yeah.
Tyler actually helped put together the series of events, and
Nice.
just making sure that it's, I mean, if I could plug you guys a little bit, the strongman standards kind of thing, our events are very basic in strongman. And you got
Good.
your press medley, you got your grip medley, you got your carry medley, your loading medley, deadlift. I feel like deadlift is an overall test of strength, and just combining all those, I feel like you can't fail to, carry over to any other show that's happening in the future, things like that. So Tyler was a very valuable resource, and he still is. And just
that's good to
feel like,
hear.
yeah.
I mean, Tyler, dude, I love Tyler. He's a great
Absolutely.
guy, and I don't hear from him enough these days.
Right.
I hope he's down there and I get to see him again. Haven't seen
Yeah.
Tyler in a minute.
He did mention that, well, right now, I don't know how much you've talked to him lately, but he's trying to get on with Denver Fire, and he's taken the steps to do that. And he has mentioned that, if he ever does get the opportunity to compete in World's Strongest Firefighter, he will. So
Nice.
maybe there will be the return of Tyler Stickle.
That would be amazing. Good
Yeah.
for him. Good for him. So why don't we talk a little bit about the events? I mean, it's good to hear from the perspective, keeping it basic. I'm a huge fan of, especially for amateurs, novice. I know there's pro division also, but keeping it simple, because there are some basics that everybody needs to be able to perform at their best consistently. And if you have any aspirations in the sport, you need to be good at those basic events. So why don't we go through the events? What's on the menu?
So Linda and I's favorite event is any kind of press event, but specifically log. We really like log. We're going to start out with log. And then we have a head-to-head deadlift. And then we have a Husafel carry. And then we have a frame carry. And then the Pikes Peak Stone series, which my friend Colton Smith came up with the term. And, the idea with that is that instead of your typical descending series, it peaks and then descends. So I thought that was a really clever idea. And I like to give him credit for that, because it's very creative. And I know something so simple can, be very catchy and, draw
Sure.
people in.
Sure.
It's the same exact event as a Stone Series, just with a different twist.
Sure.
So rather than, like making some crazy, wild new concept, it's the same event, just slightly twisted. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, it's just, like I said, just a very basic set of events to test overall strength. The first event will be the max log, and it will be one competitor at a time. So it'll really have the eyes focused on each competitor. They'll have their opportunity to shine, and then every event after that will be head to head. So I like to add that head to head aspect for the spectators. Not only that, but the time, we like to keep things kind of condensed as much as we can, but not too much. I talked to Steve Foshin recently, and he said he's a big believer in not rushing the athletes too much, giving them a little bit of time in between events to collect, gather themselves and things like that. So, yeah, those are our events, just a very basic set of events.
And I mean, so for the log, it looks like you have had some custom logs made, some very nice wooden logs. Did you guys make those yourselves, or do you have them made?
No, so that was a team of people. Literally the only person I could find in Colorado that had a lathe that big to lathe out those logs was all the way in Salida.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
not Sedalia, Salida.
Salida, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I have to make that distinction because everybody in Colorado gets the two confused. So
okay, yeah. So yeah, that was quite the drive, but we did bring Hillsinger Pros on board, and they're a sponsor. They actually sponsored the wood, the timber, basically. So they sponsored us the wood. We found that guy through some connections with some gym members that we have here. So we took it out there to get lathed. The guy had to travel overseas like the week after, so he busted those out in a week. And so his name is Keith Goshko. I'll give him a shout out. Yeah, kind of crazy story about that. He posted a 5-second clip of the prologue, which is 8 feet long. He posted a 5-second clip on Instagram, and that video has 4.1 million views.
No kidding.
Yeah, so he hit the Instagram jackpot. So
I hope he tagged you in the competition.
Yeah, he tagged Barratt Strength at the least, so that's cool. But yeah, that was crazy. He got like, I think, an additional 20,000 followers just from that one video. So it's kind of incredible. Cool. Just that one little thing that we did, kind of helped that guy out quite a bit.
That's great exposure for I mean, not only for him, for you, for the sport.
Yeah. And I felt like, as much as Linda and I like the log so much, it would be cool to bring a wood log into the scene, because that's kind of the pinnacle of logs, right? Like you get a lift on a wood log. It's very few people that own a wood log. And on top of that, it's a spectacle, and everybody likes to see a spectacle.
Yeah. I will tell you, wood loses water weight and shrinks over time. I own a wood log, and I think
awesome.
I think it's lost since I first purchased it. I mean, it's been a while now. It's probably lost 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And and it cracks. It's got like these just monster. It's oak, so it's not gonna break, but it's got these monster splits in it now, right? Like
right.
But I mean, it's still like 140 pounds. But
I think I've seen that log on some of your older videos.
Yeah, you may have. You may have. Yeah, it's an old Slater log. So yeah,
definitely.
So I saw that, at least on the site, it says it's a 12-inch log for both men and women. Is that accurate?
Yes.
That's nice, because they're saying overseas. I know a bunch of people with the under 64 kg show that was in Colorado. A lot of people are like, "Oh, the women are using a 12-inch log," and it's like internationally, everyone uses 12-inch log. So I was like, that's a good sign.
Awesome, sweet. I'm glad you like that, because Linda's been pressing a lot, and I had her training on a 12-inch log because as a woman, I feel like the platform for going to the pro level is a little easier, honestly, if I'm being honest, for her than it is me at this point, just because the competitive field for men is wild, and it's
Women's getting crazy too, man.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't want to discount the women coming out, and showing up, but I thought with having the 12-inch log, I feel like there's a little bit of discrepancy there, with some promoters. It's like the 10 inches for women and the 12-inch for men. In my eyes, a 10-inch is harder to clean. That's it.
Yep.
But I feel like a 12-inch log for a woman is just as fine as a 12-inch for a man. So I don't think that there should be any separation between the two.
Yeah. Well,
Especially when, we're doing a national level show or a title show, I guess I should say. I think it should be equal between the two classes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially when the women's world record is what is it, John, now? 320 pounds?
Yeah, because
45 kilograms. So
Inez hit that. Yeah.
So yeah, Inez hit that. So I mean, it's not as if the weight that the women are putting up right now is chump change. And in fact, she actually hit a 355 axle today too.
Oh my goodness!
Which is off of blocks, but all the same, it was stupid easy. So the women are, the challenge there, or the competitiveness is definitely going through the roof right now. So kudos to you to bring that challenge in and maintain, the integrity of the sport. It's amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and it's women like Inez that are really just proving that women are capable. I mean, to be quite honest, of things that men are doing. So why not keep it equal and just share that? So yeah, it's pretty impressive what she's doing, and I love to watch what she's doing. And so Linda's a huge supporter of her for sure.
Awesome.
They actually talk back and forth quite a bit. So
that's awesome. So that's the log, max effort, deadlift head to head, just regular old straight bar for reps.
I actually, just for the little bit of spectacle, I did add a deadlift bar in instead of straight bar. I like to see the little bit of a bend.
Sure.
And
sure.
I don't know if that's what you meant by that, but
yeah, that's what I meant. Deadlift bar. I mean, that's kind of some people may split hairs on that.
Right? Yeah, power bar. Yeah, I was thinking
it's not an axle versus
exactly. I see what you're saying. So yeah, I wanted to see a little bit of bend in the bar, especially for people who don't watch this kind of thing too often. So as you get, heavier, it definitely starts bending. So it's kind of just a simple, cool thing to see. But yeah, that was my idea behind the deadlift. And I went to the venue and we were kind of talking about the area that this is going to be set up in, and he didn't have much of an option for an area to do the head-to-head deadlift. Excuse me. He has one of those larger Olympic lifting platforms. So I mean, it's either we set up some extra flooring, or people are head-to-head deadlifting, quite literally head-to-head. Yeah. So it would be quite the battle to see somebody face-to-face just deadlifting. I don't know if that's a good thing. I mean, what's your guys' opinion on that?
I mean, the only thing that kind of goes through my head is if one person's bar rolls into the other,
that's true.
They're too close, and then you're gonna have some 2014 World's Strongest Man finals drama where stones are rolling across. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. It's when I think Mike Burke lost a stone and it rolled across and distracted.
Okay, yeah. So we might want to reconsider that.
Further back and hold on to their shit.
Right. Yeah. It might be kind of interesting to see, but I mean, I've thought about it a little bit. But yeah, there's the deadlift for you.
Yeah, nice. And then Husafel, just straight old Husafel carry for max distance. It's always a good event. One of my least favorite to do, but
is it really? Yeah.
So I don't know. I have good and bad days on it.
So one of my thoughts behind that was too, because I was trying to figure out the weight matrix for all of this, and the Husafell stone in Husafell. It's 410, isn't it?
Right,
Like it's
yeah.
just around that range.
Yeah.
So I saw CJ Pierce is quite the phenomenon when it comes to strongman, man. He's my height, slightly lighter than I am, but bigger, and just extremely strong. And he went there and took some laps with that thing, if I'm not mistaken. I think he went about 2 laps, which is
Jeez.
extremely impressive.
Yes.
And I was just like, okay, well, the pro weight definitely needs to be heavier than 410. So I put it at 440.
Oh
And I
wow.
felt that's not too much to ask. But the freaking guy, he did a 500 Husafell shortly after I had posted that. It's like, who does that? It's freaking
I can tell you who else does that is Joshua Isley.
okay.
Joshua Isley's done 500-pound Husafell also.
It makes
as an under
try.
105K.
Wow.
So I mean, it's actually amazing. You bring that up. I mean, you got these guys that are doing farmers holds now for the OSG online qualifier.
Yeah, Tyler.
It wasn't very long ago that like basically there wasn't a single 105 or maybe one guy that could like pick up 400 pounds of hand.
Wow.
They have multiple guys picking it up and walking with it in some cases now under 105. Doing 500-pound Husafell carries
Right.
or shield. Right, you want to be politically correct in the world of
right.
strongman. It's not
Maybe
technically Husafell because there's only one Husafell. It's in
okay.
Yeah,
gotcha. Yeah,
it's a shield.
I think I might update that. Then.
Well, we in the United States, I think we have a tendency to call it Husafell, but you'll notice overseas they almost always call it a shield.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a few people ask me if it's an actual stone or a shield, so I guess I should have caught on there.
Yeah, and I think the people in Iceland, prefer that we don't call. I mean, I'm not very politically correct. I'm not telling you have to change it or that anything. But,
no, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Not changing.
So and then frame carry. Is that a custom? Is it like a timber frame?
So originally we were gonna do a timber frame. I have a friend out at Iron Titan Gym in Denver who made a couple of frames that you actually competed with at Sunday Paper last year.
Oh, the ones that nobody could pick up.
Yeah, those were.
They were too heavy. They were too heavy for the men's pro class. Yeah,
it's weird. They weren't too heavy, but the frame was so difficult. I think.
Yeah.
There was a certain point where the point of grip was so crucial that if anything happened with it would tip. And they're beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but and to be fair, there's some athletes that I don't know if you know Jack Turner who trains with Ryan Shaw. Yep. Dude, he finished the same weight I had in 12 seconds. So I was like, all right, there's something here that has to do with strength. And to be fair, grip isn't my strongest suit, but there is something special about those frames where a 660-pound frame might not be as easy on this particular frame than our Titan frames that we're going to be using. So
and just a point, when I said that nobody could pick it up, I was referring specifically to the pro class.
Yeah.
Now, I think other classes did very well with them, but I mean ours was like, I don't know, it was a 725, 750 or something like that. And everybody in the field really, really struggled.
Yeah.
Probably was just a bit too heavy. But I remember they're very nice frames.
Yeah, very nice. And I definitely wanted them to kind of accommodate the wood logs that we have. I felt like that would have been kind of a nice match. And Ryan actually dropped off one of the frames here at our gym because we have a few athletes training for Sunday Paper this year, including myself. So I got to get to work on those dang things. They're definitely difficult. And, I feel like grip is one of those things that you should certainly add into a competition because it does separate people from the rest of the crowd. There will be that few percentage of people that really stand out in that event. And, we like to try to keep the rule of thirds is what I've learned when promoting a show. So you have a third that finish, a third that maybe make it halfway, and then a third that kind of struggle with it. And, when you have that even playing field, it just truly brings out that athlete that's really above and beyond So I felt like a grip event was super important in there.
Yeah. So I always kind of feel like we've talked about this a few times on the show. Nothing I'm particularly advocating for, but I think that a well-rounded strongman competition probably should have 6 events versus 5.
There you go.
It should have some kind of press, a deadlift or a squat, a carry, whether it's like a frame, farmers, or yoke, a medley, a throw.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, that's a very original one. Yeah.
People argue with me this all the time. I'm like, throwing is an explosive. It's explosive, and it shows a high level of athleticism, in my opinion.
That's true. I agree 100%.
And there should be a load. And so you kind of have all of those disciplines in there, right? You have the pressing power, you've got the lifting power, the pushing, pulling power rather, grip, carry, endurance with a medley, explosiveness with a throw, and then that just, Atlas stones I feel are mandatory in every show.
Yeah, you got to finish with them. I feel like
it's the most iconic event of strongman.
It is. Yeah, that's like when you're explaining to someone what strongman is, it's like, everybody's like, oh, powerlifting, bodybuilding. It's like, no, the big stones that people are loading that you saw on, cable TV. It's like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. The stones.
The strong guy marbles.
Right. Strong. Yeah, our daughter calls them stone balls. That's what
stone
she calls
balls.
them.
There you go.
She has her own little stone ball in here. It weighs
That's
8
awesome.
pounds. Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, I always hear like people have such strange names for things that they're just sort of kind of familiar with strongman. And I've heard Alice Stone's called everything from like marbles to like balls.
Right. Yeah.
A stone or something.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. And I really truly believe that even since like 2020 alone, up until now, like the sport has grown so much and really evolved in so many different ways. And there's like, I remember reaching out to Tyler, like, okay, man, I finally want to compete. What do I do? And I found one show on Iron Podium that was hosted by Alex Esparza.
Oh yeah,
and that was in Denver.
We love Alex.
Yeah,
Alex keeps us hydrated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's going to be at our show too. He actually sponsored us.
Excellent.
He'll be doing our IVs, and then he's the one who actually put the $1,000 payout to the heaviest middleweight men's log. So I thought that was cool.
Good for him.
He's competing himself too, so for him to kind of step up there and do that was kind of cool. But yeah, like I was saying, the sport has evolved so much, and there's so many different avenues and ways to go. I mean, it's really kind of unclear still, but ways to go pro and ways to, do this, that, and the other. And, it's great to see all these opportunities for athletes just, traveling the world and making big things happen and really showcasing what they're, capable of. And I definitely hope the sport, grows and people become more aware of what it actually is.
Yeah. Well, that kind of comes back to what you said earlier, like the engagement of the audience, right? You have to make it engaging and interesting and attractive for people to watch. I've long said that, to me, growth is, there's a couple kinds of growth, right? There's more athletes coming in to the sport. But from a monetary perspective, if we want to truly grow the sport, we need spectators. We need people to watch. We need more than the families and friends of the competitors, right? We need the average sports fans to start watching because that's where the real ROI is for sponsors. Right. So you have the people, the sponsors will come because they'll see the opportunity for return on their investment, and they're going to start putting money into the sport. And it's out there. I like to use the NFL as an example. Not that I think strongman will ever be NFL level. No, I don't know many sports ever will be NFL level. Maybe European football, soccer. They get like $14 billion a year in just endorsements alone. Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
So it's out there. But I think as a sport, strongman needs to find a way to attract that audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, live stream is one of is a good way to start, and I'm glad to see that ADL is going to be live streaming
Yeah.
your guys' competition.
Yeah. And I know, yes, he's definitely on board, especially with anything that Gabe Pena has anything to do with. I know they're good buddies. So Gabe Pena was actually on, kind of on our side earlier than ADL was. And when ADL saw that Gabe Pena was going to be here, ADL jumped on board, or kind of mentioned that they were here in case we needed them, and that is a route we want to go. And then we do want to eventually stream into the more readily available options like YouTube and things like that. And I do know that's still a cost, you know what I mean? Like you do have to pay a media company to come out and help you do that. But with everything that ADL is doing, I mean, he's kind of the gear of strongman when it comes to promoting, shows and stuff like that. So when people hear strongman and live stream, I think, in my opinion, automatically, I think ADL, he's there for a lot of the big stuff happening. So
Right.
It was without a question, like, I told my wife, I was like, Don just messaged us and said he's on board with what we're doing and this is the cost. And she's like, oh my God, everything's just adding up and adding up. And it's like, well, I mean, if we're going this big with the, Colorado's strongest man and woman, we might as well. So we jumped on board with Don, and Don's been great and supportive ever since. And I think he's on board with any future shows that we have planned. So it's nice to have him on our side, and just to have that availability for people who, like I got an athlete in here training right now who's got family out of state, who's definitely going to be streaming that show so that they can watch him. And not only him, but several others who have asked me for the link. So I know that, initially it costs us, but if our overall goal is to grow the sport and bring awareness to it, then it's going to cost us money, like without a question. I mean, it costs money to, make money. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like we're not in this game to make money from a quick show. You know what I mean? And I mean, I hate to be blunt about that, but I know there's promoters out there that do that. And I want nothing to do with that, especially with just recently opening our gym. It's like, okay, this is serious now. We're starting, our reputation in the sport, and we can't have any of that, so just providing the opportunity for people to see the purity of the sport is, kind of our goal.
Yeah. We talk about that on the show on occasion too. Like you said, there are those promoters out there that are just in it for a quick buck, and they do kind of a half-assed job. And it's really important, I think, for the sport, for us, and for other athletes to support the promoters that are actually putting in the effort to put on a quality show, to improve not only the sport, but the image of the sport, putting on a good production, not only for the audience, but for the competitors. And it's with their dollar that they get to vote, right? If athletes don't support the bad promoters, those guys are going to go away.
Yeah.
As they should.
Yeah. Yeah. And you want, just like you've said in previous podcasts, you want an athlete, coming to a show, like, you don't, well, let me back up a little bit. I guess you don't want an athlete coming to the show and be like, I paid money for this show. Like, what am I paying money for? Like there's at least give me a good trophy, you know what I mean? Like, or, something, but there's certainly things with our show where we had to, I don't want to say cut corners, but we had to figure something out. So
you're
like,
on a
for
budget.
example, we had,
I mean,
yeah. And, when you're putting money into a show, it's like, all right, well, I got to figure something out. And our shirts were one of them. So I got some quotes on shirts, and little did I know that, shirts for 80 athletes are going to cost us like $2,000.
Oh
I was like,
man.
are you kidding me? So again, the brains behind the operation was like searching on Marketplace, like sublimation printer, $500, $400, $200. It's like, oh my God. And then she found one for $50.
Nice.
And we're like, all right, let's go get it, and she found it. She messaged him. She let him know I'll be there at this time. I went and picked it up, and it's a quality shirt. I'm not gonna lie. It's dyed into the shirt, so it's not a vinyl on top of a shirt, which eventually cracks and things like that. So it's just dyed into the shirt. It's permanent. It's good quality, and it's like, sometimes, I get it. The show costs money. You got to spend money on the trophies, on the shirts. You might have to buy an implement or something. But, overall, the more you can give back, the better the outcome. I'm doing a lot of talking. I wish you would mention some things. I really do. I don't know if you want to mention, like some of the sponsors you've reached out to just recently, and like.
But I don't even, like we have a lot of costs, but it seems like the more that we put into it, the more that we get. Like we have so many people that are just willing to help us. Somebody came today and brought us some mats for the Atlas Stones. And, he said, well, we can't let you use these from our gym, but guess what? We bought you some. Yeah. And there's so much that we're putting out and looking at as athletes, we both compete. What would we want in a show? And that's what, we're trying to do. And then some, like, so our athletes are taken care of. Our people that are watching are taken care of. So they're going to want to come back. Our athletes are going to want to come back. People are going to watch it. They're going to search for it next time, and be able to find it. But it just, there's so many people
and
that
the
we
last
have
minute
to.
sponsor you brought on, Element, like talk about that a minute, like, so like she's reaching out. It's basically what I'm, she's doing all this behind the scenes, and it's like we're down to the last minute, but what else can we get for our athletes and for our competitors? So nothing's finalized yet, but she sent out an email to LMNT, which Element, which is a hydration powder for your recovery and things like that. I don't know if they're a newer company or what, but one of our members recently recommended them. My coach recommended them. So it's like, let's reach out to them, see if they'll send us a box of hydration powder for our volunteers, our athletes, things like that, like down to the wire. We're quite literally 2 weeks out, and it's like, what else can we get for our people,
Right.
So, and I feel like, in a sense, that's a little bit selfish, but not really. It's like, how much can we push this show to be at its greatest?
That's not selfish at all.
Yeah. And I think it's important to like advocate for yourself and everything. Yeah. Like it is a large show. An Element is great. That's flavored salt. It's like really great. I had some. I ran out, so I've just been dry scooping salt, which is the worst experience in the world.
Same here.
I just do like a teaspoon at a time before a workout, and it is like that builds character. People talk about dry scooping pre-workout. It's like just raw salt.
This is horrible. Yeah,
I've been doing that forever, man. Iodized salt is like literally one of the best. I mean, it's not really a drug, but it's literally one of the best peds on the planet.
It is kind of crazy, man. Like my coach is CJ Allen, who was he's recently mentioned on your guys' podcast. And I'm just gonna say this: I hope you guys have him on soon because he's phenomenal. I don't know anybody in Wyoming or even Colorado right now, besides maybe Jack Turner, working as hard as that guy works. Just kind of behind the scenes, he shares something every now and then, but I think. With him, just I don't know, like him and what he has going on is just I have a lot of respect for what he's doing, and like what he wants to bring to the sport is kind of what we're trying to bring to the sport too. So I kind of forgot what I was saying there. Were we talking about like the Element, like something like?
Oh yeah, CJ was something.
Yeah, so like he's I think he's like not a sponsored by, affiliate. So he's affiliate with them. But we're just trying to bring on all these ideas to just really make our show the best we possibly can. And Darren, I do remember now kind of what I was saying, but like you're drinking that salt water. And I remember my coach was just telling me, start drinking salt water. It's hotter. You're sweating a lot more. We're heavy. And I was just, all right, I got to get on board with this. So I was drinking the iodized salts in my gallon of water. And I remember the first day that I finished that, like the mental clarity and everything that day was just so much better. I was feeling more energetic.
Salt is, so I mean, it's more than just like water retention and hydration. Of course, that plays a part, but the electrolytes are very important to. I'm going to talk out of my ass a little bit here, but it's like the neuroelectric, whatever that your cells need to in your muscles to function properly, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, electrolytes in general, but salt's a great electrolyte. Your body needs those, and so supplementing that before working out, or even replenishing afterwards, is so important to like everything, your brain function, your muscle function, organ function, everything. People get like hung up on this, this idea that salt is bad, and maybe for some people it is. If you have a health problem, but for an athlete, you should be consuming more salt than the average person.
Yeah, I mean, we expend a lot of it, so it only makes sense to replenish it. So, like, I guess kind of full circle here, like, bringing in that little element that might, no pun intended, or pun intended, bringing that in, something so small for such a large company to send 80 packets of element, but like here's this gesture, or even just a reminder that hydration is important. However you want to take that, it's like, we're taking the time to provide that little bit of, gift, I guess, so to speak, just to bring that extra experience. Because I know Ryan Stewart for Sunday Paper did an absolutely great job of, reaching out to sponsors and getting every athlete that, that packed full new bag full of supplements. And there was some hydration powders, some glucose tabs. There was all kinds of goodies in there. But even if you don't walk away with a trophy that day, you walk away with a gift bag full of reminders of why you're in this sport.
Well, it's nice too. I've been to those shows, like you're saying, where you pay like $80 and you get nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. And then I've been to shows where I've paid like $50 and I've walked away with $100 worth, like gift certificates, like goodies, right? All this other stuff. It adds value to the athletes' entry fees, because it's getting more and more expensive just to compete. I mean, even low level shows these days, some of them are pushing $100 just to sign up, and they're not getting anything for it.
Yeah, and that's why I figured, like, there was a couple local shows that were a little more expensive, or at least I saw they were a little more expensive than what we were charging. But it's not about how much we're charging. We're not going to see any of that money. We might get some ticket sales at the end of the day of. But I mean, you really do cash out and put right back into the show. So, I mean, what we're hoping is, we get some ticket sales and we got some beer money for after the show.
Well, I've promoted 3 shows in my life, and I've been in the red every one by the time it's been done. So
and we briefly talked kind of behind the scenes about that, and it kind of led to our conversation about being on the show. And like I really truly appreciate what you and John are doing, because it's a small thing in the scheme of things, like and I truly believe that you guys are going to grow extraordinarily in the next couple of years, if not this year alone. But people do see what you guys are doing, and people need to be educated on what's the strongman standard, like what is to be expected of this sport, where a promoter can make money and an athlete can go compete and have fun. and it's something I truly appreciate. So when I talked to you, Darren, about like you saying you never saw any return, unfortunately, that was in a different time when you were competing, and it was a whole OG crew, if you will, like who was just paying out money to go compete in something they love and didn't really see any return. And the people who did was a very small fraction of that, and I think what you guys are doing is great. I truly.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. You know what I mean? Standards, the whole conversation around standards is where this show started. Basically, day one was the first conversation was about standards, and it's been a steady like conversation almost every show since. And it's important to continue to push that topic, that standards isn't just about how a lift is performed,
right?
It's and how the competitions are run, how the athletes are not necessarily treated, but giving something back to those athletes. Because like you said, I mean, for me, the first time there was ever really money, I mean, other than Estes Park, which is an unsanctioned show, that's where I've won most of my money, because you can win like, I don't know, $700 for an amateur unsanctioned show up there. Used to be able to. I don't know what it is anymore. But until Clash came around, there was really really no money to be had anywhere. I mean, there's random shows where you might get $100 or something, right? But in the thousands, that was the first time. And unfortunately for me, that was kind of towards the end of my, and I don't know, I'm not done competing yet, I don't think, but towards the end, right? But now that it's here, like I want to see that expand for the future of the sport, because I know, I mean, I was very competitive for a very, very long time. My first competition was in 2008, and I competed every single year until this year is the only year so far that I haven't done one competition. And that's strongman. I started competing in Highland Games. But and so I know what it's like. I know that what the time and the effort is. I know you don't really like to call it sacrificing, because I'm like, you're voluntarily giving things up, but you are giving a lot up.
Yeah, I mean, it's purely
you compete.
Yeah.
And you're paying a lot of money out to promoters, to organizations, to equipment suppliers, and there's got to be like a carrot at the end of the stick, that there's something to achieve financially to get some payback. Because I mean, I tell you, in 14 and a half years, I spent at least $150,000 on the sport.
I know, and it's it's because
I got less than 10,000 back.
Right. Well, I mean, like we all share the same passion. Linda and I both, we met at a gym, and fitness has always been in our interest. We've been together for 14 years now. We've been married coming up 10 years. Thank you. And it's like fitness is something unique, where people in fitness have something in common. But when it comes to strongman, it's such a niche sport. And when you're trying to classify a pro is somebody who's getting paid. And right now, people are hardly getting paid at a local level. And the local level is really the mass of the community, like we got the Brian Shaws, the Tom Stoltmans, and the Novikovs of the sport, and fine, they're getting paid and everything. But if you want to talk about building the sport, start with the mass. You got your high school sports teams that are probably more well known than strongman. I mean, to be honest. And so when you're talking about growing the sport, I truly believe, and Linda's on board 100%. And it's been rough, man. We've had some emotional couple of days, the last couple of days, just realizing what we're taking on. Because I mean, I talk a lot more than she does, man, and I
love when our guests talk a lot. I mean, I don't care who's talking, just talk.
She's beautiful.
Makes our job so much easier.
But what I was kind of thinking is like, what I'm kind of thinking is like, if we're truly going to grow the sport, we got to put a lot more into it than we actually are. And I'm going to do, a little plug here. We've announced that we're going to be hosting Olympic City Pro-Am. And right now there in Colorado, there's such a United States strongman only course going on. And we don't want that division. And we've both kind of been on board with both paths. There's no one side or the other for us. And I mean, to be honest, Strongman Corp to host something like we're going to host is a little more, well, quite a bit more expensive than hosting a local United States Strongman show. And in my opinion, I think there's two different levels there. And with us hosting this Olympic City Pro-Am, it's a Strongman Corp show, but this is going to be 10 times as big as Colorado's Strongest Man. And I'm going to say it now because I know that between Linda and I and the connections we've gathered that we can make it happen. But our total prize pot base minimum is $10,000 for this show coming up in March 23rd.
Now that's 10,000 spread across all winners or one per
so
winner?
What we want to do, so what we want to do is, of course, some of that will go to the pros, but we also want to pay out some of the open classes too, because that's not seen very often. And to be fair, it's hard. It's expensive. I talked to Steve Foshin the other night, and a lot of people have asked Steve Foshin why he doesn't do a Pro-Am. And as busy as that man is with Brian Shaw and everything they got going on, his bottom word was it's expensive. Yeah. But I mean, again, our sole purpose is to grow the sport, and it's going to cost us money. And we'll see the return eventually. It might not be the day of, but $10,000 is our minimum. And we'd like to pay out those open athletes who have dedicated their time and training to the sport to win something, and I feel like between $10,000, you could spread that money out pretty good. I know the base payout for United States Strongman is $1,000 just for the pro class. And I've yet to see anything above, here's a gift card for the open class. But if you can bring that awareness to the open class, to the amateur class, that, you could potentially go and win some money, maybe that might bring that motivation a little bit higher to these athletes that are trying to come up.
I would love to believe that. And like you said, though, I kind of grew up in a little different time where nobody seemed to be money motivated when I was really, coming into my own in the sport. Because there was sort of this cult sort of presence that you needed to just pay your own way and pay your dues and blah, 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 blah. But I think more and more people are starting to realize that this is an expensive sport.
God,
it's so expensive. It's so expensive. I mean, once you start traveling, you're almost guaranteed to blow $2,000 every show.
Yeah, like for us, we got a family, so we're either traveling with us and our kids or just kind of figuring out stuff for us to go. But either way, it's expensive. I mean, even just one person, traveling, you got to think about rental cars, hotels, and gas, food. Like
$2,000, man.
Yeah,
that's like basically that was the average I spent. It didn't matter where I would go.
Yep.
$2,000 minimum. Yeah.
And that's
actually, I think I spent $1,800 when I went to Finland once because for some reason flying to Finland was cheaper than going to like Columbus, Ohio.
Well, seeing what some of the guys just did in chaos with their extra traveling and stuff, I was like, I couldn't imagine how much they were spending. I didn't even want to think about it. I was kind of just mentally blocking that out. Like I don't know where they got their money, but they're doing their thing, and I just want to support them however we can. So, and to kind of top that off about, Olympic City Pro-Am, we literally just posted that a couple weeks ago. We've built kind of a community of people who, we've built kind of a community who really believe in what we're doing. So we already have 4 signups. CJ Allen is one of them. Alex Kelly is the other one. They're in the pro division. And then we got Alex Esparza and Dane Kelly, who are kind of in the amateur side of the things. But, just that's a good sign to start with. And Gabe Pena, I actually got off the phone with him and was kind of talking behind the scenes about that. And he's already on board with what we're doing. I talked to him about Beerstone, and I was like, just kind of in awe with how he approached Beerstone. He told us he raised 25,000
Oh, wow.
for that show.
Good for him.
And so I was kind of like, kind of tickling the idea that we might be able to do the same thing. I don't see why not, especially if Gabe Pena is kind of showing us the ropes we need to climb. But to kind of make that statement, like, okay, this is gonna be the biggest show in Colorado at a local level. Let's see what we can do with that. Like, that would be kind of cool, I don't really do a whole lot of research into things, but I know that Rainier is a huge one as far as Strongman Corp goes, and I know they do an excellent job with that. I'd like to pick their brains a little bit more about how they operate that or how they got started in that. But I wholeheartedly believe that they're doing a great job, and if they continue to go that route, they're going to continue to grow the sport.
And again, I've always said for a long, long time, and like I said earlier, the NFL draws $14 billion a year in endorsements alone and sponsorships, right? The money's out there for the people that have the passion. I'm not that guy. I tried. I'm a terrible salesman. But the money's out there for the people that have the ability to get out and sell and, make those connections and network with potential sponsors. The money's out there.
Yeah.
I've long said that part of the reason that it hasn't been in the sport previously is because nobody was really trying. And, within the last couple of years, through 2 or 3 years, that has changed dramatically in the sport. And so it takes people like you guys to really grow the sport in the right direction. And that's subjective. What I agree with is the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Putting on great shows, putting in a lot of thought and effort, raising the money, taking care of yourselves, of course, but also taking care of the athletes is really, really important. Yeah,
absolutely. And we brought on a lot of sponsors. NutriShop here in Colorado Springs is a huge one. They're a franchise within the nation, and they've just branched out to Colorado Springs. So just moved here recently, and we brought them on for our little small grand opening here at Barratt Strength that we had a little while ago.
Nice.
And they've been on board 100% with what we're doing since the beginning. So to have them on board was huge because they're giving individual gift bags to each athlete with supplements, samples, all kinds of things like that. And, as also the volunteers and judges, things like that. So, I just, you got to give to receive, man. So although the receiving might not be immediate, I do wholeheartedly believe that the more we give and put out, the more we'll get back in return. And we've seen it today, just like Linda just mentioned a few minutes ago, is, a guy, Ed Wellborn.
Dude, Ed is like
the greatest guy.
My brother from another mother, man. I love that guy.
I was like, Ed, I don't know what I deserve or what I did to deserve all this. But he said he wants to support good people. He sees what we're doing. And you know how much stall mats are. And these aren't even stall mats. Yeah. They're the 1-inch 6x4 mats.
You didn't tell me it was Ed earlier. I know Ed very, very well.
That's awesome. He was actually giving me a big history lesson on you guys, and he brought up your name as well, ironically. And today was just a wild day, like I mentioned to you before the podcast. But go ahead, talk about Ed, man. Ed.
I just want to just shout him out. It's just like I'm amazed that he came up today on the show. I love Ed. Ed's a great human being. He's one of those people that you always aspire to be and will never be like, right?
Yeah, it blows my mind how much he just has. I mean, he embraced me like he's known me for 11 years. And I literally have known the guy for 3, like he immediately feels like a brother. And I could tell whatever he can do to help grow the sport, he's on the same page we are,
Yeah. Ed has been doing a lot up at Nick's Performance in Aurora for
Absolutely.
a long time. I mean, Ed's been around since, I first moved here. I mean, it's been a little bit over a decade ago, and we were training together, kind of the OGs of Colorado at Colorado Pro Gym. Also, not too far from where Nick's is now.
Okay.
And big guys like Ed and Stan Carradine. Tyler would drop in once in a while. Stickle. Why can't Michael Burke would actually ended up with us for about 3 years.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other names in there that I know I'm forgetting, but it was a huge crew. I mean, that was the OGs of Colorado.
Right. Man,
And
to relive that would be absolutely amazing. And I know I can't, but I often find myself just asking Tyler all kinds of questions about what it used to be like. And, because you guys were really molding Colorado at that time. And I mean, that's just to say the least. Like, just what Ed told me today is like mind blowing how much he knew of, this athlete and this athlete. And it's like, wow.
Yeah, Ed knows more than I do. He's been around a bit longer in Colorado, specifically.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's old school guys like, we call him Rob the Butcher. Just another great human being. I wish I was around a little bit more, but man, there's a lot of good memories of training in Colorado in those old facilities. Like I said, Colorado Pro.
Yeah.
Nick's Performance, even Iron Warrior back when it was still like the full, like, huge gym.
Yep. Kind of a cool thing when Ed and I talked today, we were, talking about the importance of certain things happening in a show. And he brought to my attention having someone on scene as a medic, so to speak.
Oh, absolutely.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like
you got John Cotton. He's a EMT. So
yeah. Well, actually, Jonathan Cotton will be a guest judge. And Ed Wellborn stepped up to the plate because I know he has a military background.
He's basically a PA. So
right, yeah. And he jumped on board, so he'll be there as our medic for the day.
Nice,
huge, because things as new promoters and jumping into things so quick, I didn't quite have everything comprehended. When I had taken on the task of hosting Colorado's Strongest Man and Woman. And you'll go to a local show and you definitely won't see there's somebody there to take care of somebody who might get injured, and it's like, that opened my eyes today. It's like, wow, I've literally been at a show where there's nobody there to tend to me if I need it. And even if it's something as simple as you twisting an ankle, but you got a professional there to tell you like you're good to go, that's huge, So when Ed stepped up to the plate, in multiple ways today, I was like, man, that's much appreciated. So
yeah,
Ed, if you're watching this, thank you, man.
Take care of that man and he'll take care of you. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right. People do tend to overlook the medic aspect, and as we've talked about on this show too many times, the horrendous accidents, preventable incidents. Let's call them that because they're not accidents. Preventable incidents that happen at some of these shows, man. So important to have somebody. I mean, even for the ones that aren't preventable, right? I mean, people. I mean, there's been some very just unfortunate and sorrowful things that have happened to people. Guy had a heart attack last year, I think. I mean, unfortunately, I think he passed away. But having a medic, they still had a medic there to help the guy as much as possible. People do get hurt, like they break bones, they tear muscles, heat exhaustion, you name it.
Yeah,
it's very, very, very important that we take care of each other. Promoters are thinking about the athlete's safety. Because that's a topic that we talked on here too often. The indemnity waiver is only going to protect you for so long, right? And then that shouldn't be a cop out anyway.
Yeah, I definitely agree that you got to be fully invested for whatever you need to host a show, a good show. I don't think that just any show should be hosted. So, I'm learning as we go, and I know that we'll only get better after Colorado Strongest Man and Woman. It's definitely been extremely stressful and emotional at all levels, and we're getting it done. But I've learned a lot actually from a lot of the recent podcasts you guys have had about talking about promoting a good show and things like that. And I've had Linda listen to some of these podcasts too, and really open her eyes, because I truly think people just don't know the importance of the standards. I guess I like to bring that up because I truly believe what you guys are doing is a good thing. The more I find out about how to run a good show, you guys are getting it under wraps. So it's
our goal isn't to necessarily tell you how to run a good show per se. It's to influence conversation about how we can be better, right? Because you're right. We've kind of already beat that horse, I guess, to death. I mean, bad shows they're not good for anybody.
Yeah.
And we want to encourage people to do their best and hit all, check all those boxes.
Yep. So we're definitely, looking forward to the show in a couple of weeks. I think, we've brought on quite a few awesome people, including yourselves. Yep. I heard in the other podcast, I can't remember which one it was, but you guys hadn't yet met. So for us,
we have not in person.
We've been talking together for years now.
We're like long distance pen pals.
Yeah, he's
good old pen pals. Yeah,
he's been part of my Duolingo family, which is one of our first serious conversations.
Yeah,
for I think over a year and a half now, because I get the notifications. That's how I know it's Sunday. Is Darren and I will both get notifications from each other that we both did more than 10 lessons in a day, because we're both trying to maintain streaks. Of he's coming up on a whole year of
I think I have 3 or 4 days left, and I'm gonna hit 365 days streak.
I almost lost mine this Sunday, but I'm at 1,081 days, which is
incredible.
And that's the importance of consistency. People don't always realize those little
you get to cheat a little bit, right?
It's true. I do. There are
because it gives you freezes.
It's true.
So you only have a limited number of days that you can skip.
The streak freezes, they don't go towards your total thing though, which is crazy. Because Andy's ahead of me now because I had used more streak freezes, so it doesn't go towards the count. But
it doesn't?
That's it. Yeah, it does.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What language are you guys? What language, John, are you studying and doing?
So I did 6 months of Spanish, then I did a year of Mandarin, and then realized that I just didn't have enough time to ever learn any Mandarin to be functional. So I've been doing Russian recently. And the cool thing is the band Slaughter to Prevail just came out with a song that they have some Russian in it. And I actually recognized some of it.
Some of that?
Yeah, I was surprised. They were talking about his language and the swords and stuff. And I was like, for a second, I didn't know if it was English or Russian because I could understand it. And it was weird to have that happen. So slowly, it's those dividends. We've been doing this podcast now. It's coming up October 2nd will be the first year anniversary of the show. But we've been talking this whole time and we've never met.
That's amazing. I just to kind of touch on that Duolingo thing a little bit, my wife and I have talked a little bit about doing that kind of thing, because I feel like as far as competitors here in the States, we're so just consumed in what's happening in the States, but it's the very few percentage of people who go out and travel and compete overseas and in foreign countries where, you might not, speak a whole lot of languages, other than just English or if any at all. And, just to learn a language and go compete somewhere else, because I know strongman is definitely, competitive in other states, but not only the States, but outside of the States, so learning to, just learn your basic communication skills so that you can travel, overseas and compete. And, I think that's a whole nother level of competing. If we can get some of our, athletes who are from the States traveling more and getting themselves more well known outside of the States. I think that's huge. So just, a little side topic as far as that, Duolingo goes. It's kind of funny,
Yeah.
but
I think it's important too that Americans get out and realize that there's more to strongman than the United States.
absolutely. That whole strength unknown thing that Martins is doing is
Yeah.
incredible. Just seeing how many strength sports there are out there is just wild, and just to be so consumed in what we're doing and not realize, how much strength is out there in the world. I think, one thing that's so cool about strongman is, we've talked about the expenses, of course, but with that expense does come traveling, whereas your average person might not even get out the states there, or their specific state their entire life. So some sort of appreciation for signing up for a show, and all of a sudden you got to travel 2 states over. I feel like yeah, you do pay the cost, but it does get you out there, and you have a reason to get out there. So.
Right. But the reality again, though, is traveling overseas sometimes is not any more expensive than traveling domestically in the United States.
Yeah, you mentioned that, which was wild to me. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, he's mentioned that to me several times.
Yeah. I mean, it's more expensive to travel to Daytona Beach, Florida, than it is to travel like almost anywhere in Europe. Maybe.
Yeah.
I guess like Czech Republic is pretty expensive, but it's not. It's like, I mean, it's not a lot more, but there's cheaper places to go in Europe than some places in the U.S. So I mean, and it kind of also just depends on your frugality as well. But I mean, I typically will rent a car when I can. You stay in Airbnbs to save some money, and that way you can go grocery shopping and actually eat at your place wherever you're staying. But there's ways to save money. But I mean, the United States is expensive to travel in.
Yeah, that's crazy, and I never would have thought. But I mean, I do understand. When I look at the receipts, I definitely see like, okay, this is what it's going to cost next year to travel, or about thereof. But I know you and CJ Pierce kind of talked about that a little bit. You guys, mentioning how CJ was talking about, well, he'll pick his certain shows to travel to each year, kind of budget that in and everything. Which is why I'm definitely thankful while hosting Colorado's Strongest Man and Woman. It's, we got Denver Airport, of course, but then we got the airport here. If you had to, you can fly into Colorado Springs,
Right.
So it is a nice hub to have, especially to host such a show like this, or Olympic City Pro-Am. I feel like, it's a good spot to do that. So, that's another thing Steve mentioned is Steve lives out in Carbondale. So that's one of the other reasons why he doesn't, host a Pro-Am, is because you fly into Denver, then you got to drive 4 hours to Carbondale,
Yeah. I mean, he's done shows down here.
Yeah. I have.
That's a long ways for him to drag his equipment. But
yeah, see, so there's
somebody's got to do the work.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
One way or the other.
Right.
That is kind of one of the things, the drawbacks of living in the U.S. versus, you hear some of these European guys are doing, I mean, ridiculous numbers of shows a year, and it's just not feasible here in the U.S. I mean, I don't know that they're not doing like everything from novice to pro shows just to get the shows in. I almost kind of wonder sometimes if some of them aren't, but I don't even think you could do that here. It's frowned upon. I frown upon it, at least.
It's a lot. I mean, unless you got no obligations and no responsibilities to just be traveling the States competing every weekend.
Well, I mean, if you're traveling within like the correct, and when I said I frown upon that, I mean like competing at a lower level than you actually are, you shouldn't do that. But so I mean, you could.
That does kind of go back to the topic, right? A little bit about just growing the sport and offering more of an opportunity for athletes to earn money and make a career out of it, I think a big deal with, we took on, I spoke to a recent business friend, I guess you'd say, and he said, although I'm, stressed out and I'm overwhelmed, and I mean, to be honest, looking forward to after Colorado's Strongest Man and Woman, where Linda and I can just go relax at Shaw Classic the next weekend, have some drinks, enjoy what we're not doing, anymore, and just kind of do that, then, then kind of step back and focus on Olympic City Pro-Am and offer something where athletes in Colorado who want that opportunity to go that route and make money and make a name for themselves, they don't have to travel as far. Because I feel like I truly feel like Colorado and some of the surrounding states are really up and coming. So if we can offer something more in the Midwest and take the hit in expenses, I feel like just again, the outcome and our passion behind our beliefs and Barratt strength is just really to grow the sport of strongman and continue that as long as we compete and after that, what I mean, like so that's like our biggest goal is just to grow the sport and do it the right way from the beginning.
Yeah, I think that makes a huge difference because it is, I think people don't always realize that like life's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like a lot of people do kind of like fly by night shows of like you do it and then you just like disappear, when in reality you want repeat customers. Like you want athletes to come back, but you also want people to be sad that they missed out on it and everything. Because I think that's
for sure.
you definitely don't want people being like, thank goodness I didn't register for that.
Right,
and that happens pretty frequently where
Yeah.
people are like, I debated doing that and then
Yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't, because I think at the end of the day, like it is, the sport's still growing and there is a huge audience. Like oftentimes people say like, oh, there's not that much audience, but like John Hack, what is it, almost 250,000 people follow him, and he's like, he did some strongman stuff, and I think
that was insane.
yeah, but it's all about like professionalism and stuff, because for a long time there has been that kind of culture of like, you can't advocate for yourself because you don't want to sound like you're bitching about things, or like you don't want to sound like you're weak or like complaining. But in reality, it's not complaining to advocate for yourself, in the same way that selling yourself or like talking to sponsors feels weird. But like anything in life takes work. Like you have to like put that time in, and the rewards won't be immediate because it's not, most things in life do take time to like get to that point, and it can be hard or discouraging. But I think putting on a good show and having it be memorable, like there is a growing audience for that kind of stuff and everything, especially too of like the more we talk about standards and everything, like vote with your dollar. Like don't, if a show's not good, don't give them $100 again, because like we need to as a community start thinking about the fact that like if someone gives you $100, they should get $100 worth of value. That's how commerce should work. Right. For the longest time it feels like a lot of people, they just act like sponsors should do it out of charity and athletes should just be happy they're invited, and it's like, you're not invited, you paid to be here, you're the spectacle. Like so I think that's key. So I like that, how much you guys are doing for the athletes.
I appreciate it. Yeah. We've definitely, even though we've been stressed and overwhelmed and emotional, we've definitely taken pride in what we're doing, for sure. I know, it's not easy and not everybody can do it. I mean, there's some people who certainly think they can, but I mean, until you're actually doing it and realize the concept of how big something like this truly is, it's a lot, man. It's something to be proud of, and we are. So, and I don't ever want to think that, we're going to fail at this show, or, something's not going to go right, or, things like that. But, those little things come into my mind, and I just think, how much we put in. Mistakes happen. We put in everything we possibly could. And when I think about it that way, it's like the outcome's got to be good. When the good outweighs the bad, it's got to be good.
Yeah.
I tend to be hard on myself a lot of times, and just, I'm in a way, I'm kind of a perfectionist. Like I don't want one bit of scoring to go wrong in my competition. I don't want one unhappy volunteer. I don't want one unhappy athlete. I don't want that. And I think because we strive, both of us, for that excellence, I have no doubt in my mind that we'll put on a good show for everybody. Everybody will be treated great and feel like they were welcome, and they'll want to come back. And that's our biggest goal. We did say that with USS Nationals happening in Denver next year, that we will kind of take a step back from Colorado Strongest Man just for this 1 year, let local athletes compete at a local show, focus on the national events, and not have such a big show to focus on besides nationals. So we kind of gave, Justin Menning, who is the state rep of Colorado, kind of the reins to, handle that competition, that national level show, and just let everybody focus on that. And then, step back from Colorado Strongest Man. We will return in 2025 with Colorado Strongest Man and Woman. But until then, to fill the gap, that's like what I said, we needed to fill that gap. So we hosted the Olympic City Pro-Am just because we want to keep that ball rolling. I feel like if we don't keep that ball rolling after Colorado Strongest Man and Woman, we'll get bored. I feel like things won't continue to progress unless we allow it to.
Yeah, that's super important. Everything. I know usually we typically kind of keep things about an hour, so I know it's slowly kind of wrapping up
on
everything.
that, yeah.
But I'm excited because I don't always travel and everything, so it'll be nice flying out to Colorado, getting to see you all, getting to meet Darren and
Yep.
everything. So yeah, it's going to be really exciting. Do you guys have any closing thoughts, final words?
You?
Good.
I don't know. I just, again, like I truly appreciate what you guys are doing. And, when I was invited onto the show, I just took that as an opportunity to, just truly appreciate everything that you guys are doing. And, I want to say thanks to you and Darren. And I look forward to what you guys are doing, and I can't wait to see you guys,
Yeah, that's going to be a great time. Glad to have you all on. It looks like we lost Darren, probably connectivity issues. It looked like he froze up a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was wonderful. And can't wait to see you on August 12th.
Yeah,
you can tune in.
around the corner.
ADL will have a great live stream going there. What time should people tune in to the live stream?
So the show will start at 9. So I assume the live stream will start at 9 as well.
Nice.
Athletes meeting will be at 8:30. Everything will get started around that time, and yeah, we'll be off with the show.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Support us on Patreon or Anchor, and find us on Instagram or Facebook.